All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we cover a lot of ground. We update you on the LPDS universe here at the dungeon while I'm visiting family in New Jersey. Update you on some sports. We talk about some current events. Take some hotline calls. All that plus a great Nic Cage fact coming at you right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to the Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti, show that talks about nothing but tries to find the lessons and everything, and we have a good time doing it. I apologize in advance if the audio is a little jacked up. I am using my Rode mic here, and sometimes this mic catches stray feedback from other places. I don't know. I can't hear it while I'm in the midst of recording episodes and stuff and using it. It only happens after the fact. So I try to silence everything around, and I buzz my chest a little bit so that there's not a lot of bushiness to the chest hair. So hopefully it comes out pretty clear and I'm not accidentally hitting it or anything like that. But we'll see how it goes. Just like last week's road episode, sometimes the audio is what the audio is. While I was editing that episode from the road, there was a lot of feedback, a lot of spikes in the audio and the loudness as I got louder. So it's just something that you can't hear in the moment with some of these mobile mics. And if I had a tech guy in the background doing this, it might be a little bit different. But anyway, we do what we can here. Hope everybody had a good week. It's been good. It's been hectic. Still getting used to the dungeon. Randy's still getting used to the dungeon. And by the time we get used to it, we're going to be back on the road again. So there's that. Trying to think what we could talk about. I haven't recorded in a while because that road episode was recorded almost a full week prior to when it posted because of the timing and what have yous. Now, sorry, folks. My mom came home. So speaking of hecticness, my mom came home from work while I was recording. I had to take care of some family stuff, updates and what have you. So I don't know what I was talking about. I think I was talking about the hectic week, good week, a lot going on here, still trying to get used to things. But that's just the way it goes. You always got to deal with this stuff, and how you respond to uncontrollable things in your life kind of dictate how happy you're going to end up being. If you collapse, if you let your emotions take over, you think everything's a negative that hits you, that's not according to plan, you're going to have a negative effect, negative consequences, and it's not going to be a good time. So we always try to adapt, improvise, overcome, find the lessons, learn all that good stuff, and enjoy the ride, if you will. So that's what we're doing here. Speaking of enjoying the ride, sorry folks, if you're in YouTube land, you can see some flickering of lights and stuff on the camera. I'm trying to get this thing situated. Anyway, speaking of enjoying the ride, I went to the Jersey Shore last weekend or weekend prior, whatever, with my buddy, old friend, one of my oldest friends since second grade. I knew this guy, and we went down to the Jersey Shore. It's something we try to do every year. He rents a house down the Jersey Shore. He's got a sweet situation. A lot of places down the Jersey Shore in the less touristy areas. They still get touristy in the summertime, but they're a little less touristy. A lot of these shore houses are houses, big houses that people own, and in the backyard there's like these little mother-in-law suites, I guess they're technically called. I don't know what the real estate industry calls them. Bone Crusher, you'll have to help me out on that one. But that's what he rents. He rents one of those. It's not a real bungalow. It's a full house. It's, insulation, cool, AC, shower, bathrooms, whatever. And he's been renting one from this lady who owns this house for several years now. He has a deal with her that he gets the whole summer every summer. So it works out nicely. I try to go every September, usually the weekend after Labor Day. We try to do it that way because we have a goal in mind for the weekend, and the best way to go about our goal is to make sure that it's what they call local summer down there, down the shore. It's the shops are still open, but the tourists are gone. And this particular town, it's a town that happens to be on the beach, on the Jersey Shore. It's not a shore town. It's not a resort town. It's not a tourist type of town that shuts down in the wintertime. This place is open all year round, but they get some tourists and some visitors in the summertime, so it gets a little bit busy. We didn't want to deal with the busyness, so I usually come the weekend after Labor Day. That's the start of local summer. Everything is open, and we don't have to wait in long lines for stuff like that, because our goal is pretty simple. Ride our bikes around town, the different towns. The towns are small, so we can hit a bunch of different towns on our bikes down the shoreline, and hit as many ice cream parlors and bakeries as possible for the weekend. We have one meal in the morning. We have a full real breakfast. We work out first. I ran on the beach for the first time in a while. It was nice to get out there. It actually rained a little bit. Didn't even care. I loved it. It made me feel like a man for some reason. Like running in the rain makes you feel tougher. I don't know why. It's probably because when it rains out, I usually don't like it. It's cold water. I feel, I get all wet. My clothes get sopping wet. It's not a good time usually, but when I'm running, doing something hard that I don't like to do, breaking out of my comfort zone, and then it starts raining, you feel a little bit tougher doing that. I don't know why. It's a mental thing, whatever. People have their own ways of feeling tough, I guess. So that's how I feel tough, running in the rain. Every time it rains outside and I have nothing else to do, I hit the trails. So we did a run, we did a workout, we got a breakfast, and then the rest of the day on that Saturday, we spent biking around the town, finding places to get pastries, baked goods, and ice cream. Now, I know there's going to be people who are going to get agita, Italian heartburn from hearing that, especially if you heard me talk about our Chicago trip recap, which was all food-based. This was sort of similar, but it wasn't nearly as many calories, and we were getting a ton of exercise in between with the biking and what have yous all day, and it was a good time. I didn't gain any weight. I didn't get fat, get bloated, nothing, because we did it appropriately, and we trained for this. We do this every year, so we were ready for it, and that's all I can say about doing anything like that. Whenever you dedicate a day or a trip around food, train appropriately and build your follow-on days appropriately to make sure that they're including quality diet and exercise on the back end, because you don't want to backslide into bad habits after all. So that's what we did. I didn't even get to go in the water because the weather was kind of not great the whole time, but it was good enough for us to do what we went there to do, and it was fun. So I hope everybody had a similar kind of relaxing situation the past week or two, because I sure did. All right, moving on here. Got a lot to cover, not a lot of time. As you know now, especially, I use my phone as my camera for these episodes on YouTube. And I'm mad right now because I got a nice little conversation going with this text scammer. And I'm sure you've seen this before. I think I might have even talked about it before. These scammers come in, they text you, they get your number they buy it from, companies like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They get your information and they text you. And it's the same sort of scam. They pretend it's a wrong number. They say even the same messages like, "Oh, I'm so sorry I bothered you on this beautiful day." and then they try to hook you in to start a friendship and conversation. I'm Jenny from Australia. What's your name? Meanwhile, Jenny from Australia sends a picture of a Korean woman or an Asian woman. I think she said Korean, and her phone number is from Ohio. So I'm in a nice little conversation trying to look. I have fun with this stuff. I know my limits. I know what you can and can't do when it comes to these scams. I'm not clicking on any links, obviously. I'm not sending out any personal information. But if you're going to try to waste my time and steal my information and try to get money from me, I'm gonna steal your time back. That's it. I do with telemarketers that call a scam, with like the car warranties and stuff like that. I do it with this if I have the time. And I'm right now in the middle of not heated yet, conversation with this person. They think they're going to scam me, and we're going to see what we can get out of it. I already got a picture of some random Asian woman, so that's cool. So I want to get back to that, but the LPDS is obviously more important, so we're going to keep going with this. Now, moving on to the baseball world real quick. Yankees still crawling their way into the playoffs. They really have just accepted, like, oh, we're going to make the playoffs. We don't really care that much whether it's the division leader or wild card. We already know we're going to get in, and we're just going to coast. We don't like the batting has been terrible. Aaron Judge and Juan Soto have kind of gotten quiet lately, and I think it's just because they're so tired. If you notice anything, if you're a Yankees fan at all out there and you've been watching baseball the past couple of years, especially Aaron Judge, you would notice that this is the most he's played in any season in his career. Even when he's not injured, the Yankees have historically given him days off. Like every 4 games, he gets a day off. Even if they're playing a rival and they need the game, they need the win, they were sitting him, oh, he has to get his rest so he doesn't get hurt and this and that, longevity, whatever, taking care of your guys. Got it. Hasn't happened much at all this year. At all. He's been playing the vast majority of the games. And it's because, I think, between him and Soto, it's because they can't afford to bench these guys, these two. Nobody else in the batting order is helping out on a consistent basis. They need them to win. Soto did it again last night in an extra innings game. He got the game-winning hit. He also had a 2-run home run earlier in the game, I believe. Maybe that was a game before. I don't know. I think it was a game before, actually. So they need these. Or if they take them out, they have no chance in hell of winning. And that's not the makings of a good team. And we've been saying it all year. The story hasn't changed. So I don't understand these fans who are shocked when the Yankees lose a game or they're not 10 games over, in the win column against in the division. They're going to go into the playoffs, and if they don't play the Twins in the first round, they're going to go quietly. That's what's going to happen. They might get lucky with a win here and there, but I think they're going to go quietly, and people are going to be shocked. The front office is going to be like, oh, we're shocked. We were the first place team. I don't know how this happened. We know how it happened, guys. We know how it happened. They were never the playoff competitive team the whole year. Okay? And another thing, and if I didn't talk about this last week, I can't remember because I was talking about everything last week. The Yankees are in first place now because of the good luck that they had in the beginning of the season. Okay? Over the past 84 games, and Creature ran the numbies on this one. Thanks. Shout out to Creature for that one. In the last 84 games, the Yankees were 42-42. They were a 500 baseball team. Okay? Go look at every team that is 500 in the league right now. Every other team that's 500 in the league, and you will see none of them are making the playoffs. You had to have a better record than 500 to make the playoffs. Okay? 84 games is half the season. More than that by a couple games. The season's 162 games. Okay? Half the season, the Yankees were in 500 baseball. Win half, lose half. Okay? They got lucky, and I'm happy that they won a bunch of games in the beginning. But that's what they are. That's a big sample size to go off of, 500. Okay, and for all those people who talk about, oh, it's a long season, 162 games. These early games don't mean as much. We got a lot of season to catch up and do this. This is why those games are important. This is why when I hear that rhetoric from coaches and GMs and other fans, I call bullshit on it. Joe Girardi used to do that constantly when he managed the Yankees, and he did it when he managed the Phillies, and that's why he got canned from them too. Those early games mean something. Okay? If the Yankees did not win those early games, they won't even be a contender. They shouldn't really be a contender based on their actual skill level and how lucky they got in the beginning of the season. But I'm not mad about that because I want them to be in the playoffs. But those games matter. And right now, that's the only reason why the Yankees are still competing for the playoffs, which is, it's crazy to think about. So that's basically the Yankees update. Oh, by the way, now everybody all of a sudden hates Clay Holmes. He blew another save a little while ago, and they finally decided to bench him and choose other closers. And now everybody has flipped the script, talking about how he should never be closer again. I don't know what they were thinking. Some of them said like, oh, we thought he was good, but I guess he stunk. But nobody has taken accountability and put their hand up and said, I was wrong about this guy. I looked at the stats, and the stats fooled me into thinking he was good, but I should have realized all the games that he struggled through, that the defense actually helped him secure victories, and how much contact he gives up. I should have known the whole time that he was not the guy. But nobody's doing that, except for us here at the LPDS. Except for us here. Now, I love Clay Holmes. He seems like a nice person. I have no hate against him as a human being. I feel bad for him on the human side. And I've talked about this numerous times. I do feel bad for him in that regard. But how long were we talking? Since the first game of the season that I went to, we saw it. Since the first game, we called it. This guy is not a closer. He does not have it in his brain to be the guy for the Yankees. 11, 12 blown saves later, and don't forget the games that the defense saved the game and not him. And they won in spite of him. That's a terrible closer. Okay? And I hate that we're right on that one. I hate that we were right. Now, with 15 games left in the season, or how many left there are, the Yankees don't have a closer for the playoffs. They're a closer by committee right now. Okay? Tell me you're not a playoff team without telling me you're not a playoff team. That's how you do it. And nobody, again, you ask anybody in the front office, the analysts, everybody, nobody wants to come out and actually say that. They're dying on that hill. No, we got it. We're good. We're good to go. We're going to win the World Series. We're this, we're that. It's malarkey. That's my biggest issue with the Yankees. Not that they stink. It's frustrating when your team that you root for stinks. But don't lie to us. Okay? It's always the lies that get you. It's always the lies that get you. Just tell the truth. Hey, we're struggling. We don't have the depth that we wanted, and we're going to try to find a way to make it work. And we have to rely on 2.5 guys, because sometimes Garrett Cole is good if he's around and not hurt. That's a sad state of affairs. Okay? Lying about it, and we're seeing the results. And then they lie. They continue to lie and try to gaslight us and pretend that we're the crazy ones. And the real problem there, too, is most of the stupid fans of New York Yankees believe it. They hook, line, and sinker. And that's all Cashman cares about. The vast majority, I hate to say it, because I love the Yankees and I love New Yorkers and Jerseyites and what have you, most of us are stupid and gullible. And just believe anything that the front office says. So, whatever. That's the Yankees update. I hope they win. They just had 3 games in a row, or whatever. They had to go to extra innings to beat teams that are not that good. Well, they beat the Kansas City Royals in extra innings. They're pretty good. And they just did it against Boston. And also, too, in that Kansas City series, one game they won like 10-4, 10-2. And I said it out loud to somebody that night. I was like, oh, the Yanks are going to put up a goose egg the next game. And sure as shit, shutout. They did nothing. They got like 3 or 4 hits the next game. They're too predictable. And then we get lied to. That's the Yankees this year. Unbelievable. Anyway, hopefully they do well in the playoffs. We'll see. Moving on. I did not mention this in the previous episode, even though it posted the week of September 11th because I recorded the week prior to that, 2 weeks prior or whatever. So it was not on my mind. But I always like to talk a little. I always like to remember, the 9/11 tragedy, and and give pay a little bit of respects to the people who lost their lives. Not just on that day, but after as well. I'm talking about the first responders, the people down at ground zero that have all gotten some sort of disease, cancer, and chronic conditions. We now have 23 years later, however long it is, more people have died from complications due to being at ground zero from the smog and the rubble and debris and asbestos and all that stuff. More people have now died from diseases and direct consequences of 9/11 than the first responders that died on that day. I think it was like 300 something police and firefighters died. And there's now more than 300 something who died of cancer and other issues and what have you. Which is crazy to think about. I have friends, I have family members who are also dealing with or have dealt with medical issues from that or lost their lives in that tragedy. That doesn't even don't forget about the 20 years of military members fighting these wars that were direct consequence of 9/11 because of that. Iraq and Afghanistan. And don't get me started on the actual justifications to those wars, because I have a lot of tinfoil hat theories on that myself. But it's just something that you can't forget it. Okay, you can't forget the tragedy. You can't forget how we came together after that. You also can't forget the negatives that came with that as well. The other negatives besides the loss of life is obviously the big one, and the attacks themselves. But there are a lot of other negatives that came from that. And again, you can get tinfoil hatty on this. I don't want to get too down, far down those rabbit holes, but you had stuff like the Patriot Act come from that, which is, if you read the Patriot, please go and look it up. I did some studies and some work on the Patriot Act in college when I was studying Homeland Security, and it was basically a free-for-all. Any excuse, there was all this verbiage and jargon in there that basically gave the U.S. government any excuse to conduct surveillance on U.S. persons for any reason. If there was a 4th, 5th, 6th degree possible chance that this person might have looked at a guy who could be a terrorist, we'll now surveil that person. We have the authority to do so. So a lot of shit came from 9/11 that we should never forget. And again, I don't want to get too tinfoil hatty out of all this, but we have to remember all that stuff. And I hate the fact that they had those two jabronis have their debate the night before September 11th anniversary. Because as expected, most of social media, because people, again, they don't remember that I can't see can't see the forest through the trees or whatever the saying is. All they cared about was a debate, talking about whose side won, Kamala's the best, Trump's the best, this and that. Did you hear this? I have concept of the plan, and this person lied, and they're eating the dogs, and they lie like a dog. And shut up. Take 1 second out of your time. That was the most disappointing thing, is that there's people I saw, and there's people I know and care about in various degrees that didn't mention 9/11 at all on their social media. Now, maybe they actually took the time to remember in person, which is fine, whatever. And this is another reason why I hate social media, is this is the persona you're putting out to the public. This is who you're okay with being identified as. This is, your public reputation, and the perception of you is what you put out in public to strangers. Okay? Now, it's obviously different if you know the person, they're not really like that. But the vast majority of the people that see your stuff on social media are strangers. And the fact that you're okay with putting out political rhetoric and taking jabs at, again, strangers in the political spectrum, and taking personal jabs and calling names to people. If you follow Trump, you're a Nazi and a racist. If you follow Kamala, you're a communist and a Marxist. And didn't take the time. They're okay with putting that out and taking jabs and making generalistic proclamations like that, but didn't take the time to even put up, hey, this is a tough day. Okay? Don't forget about the people who lost everything on this day because of this day, or the families of the people who lost their lives. They have to live every day knowing that their loved one, the people they love most in this world, are gone as a result of this, whether it's on the day of the attack or the subsequent wars and conflicts to prevent future 9/11s from happening. Didn't want to take the time to even publicly put out their fake persona, their public persona, to put out and remember that. That's what I have a hard time with a little bit. That's what gets me angry, especially because why they put this stupid debate out the day before. They should have done it at a different time, a different week, something. But that makes me sad, and it's a little disheartening to see how you just couldn't step away from the division and the chaos and the stranglehold that social media and the media has on us for 2 seconds to remember. Now, a lot of people did. This is not everybody. I'm not calling out everybody here. I'm calling out the people who chose not to. Because that was a choice. Okay? And if your reason was because you forgot, that I don't buy it. That's not a good reason. The slogan of 9/11 is 9/11, never forget. Okay? You sure as shit didn't forget to post your political opinion after the debate that nobody asked for, but you forgot to pay respects to an actual tragic day in this country's history. I'm not an aggressively praying person or religious person, but I'm praying for those people for sure. I hope they get the help they need to get better mentally, so that they can get the mental health and wellness they need to not do that shit anymore. Because it's a tough look for sure. It's a tough look, especially for people, again, like I said, I know the kind of people they are. And they're good people. And the fact that they're so wrapped up in this, crazy. Sad. Anyway, luckily, I had JPL3 had control of the remote on September 10th. So we barely watched the debate, because he would change the channel immediately, and then we would watch the Yankees lose. And then he would change the channel immediately, and we would leave Everyone Loves Raymond on TV Land or whatever was playing. And then he would fall asleep with the remote in his hand. So I watched Everyone Loves Raymond. So it ended up being a good night. And maybe that's why I didn't get too caught up and didn't feel inclined to post about political stuff. I try not. I don't think I've ever posted like or reposted a story on Instagram or social media that was politically driven. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I have. I really try not to. Um, I've done a lot of draft responses to people who post on their stories what I feel are stupid questions or really not kind things to put out there and obvious jabs at people who share different opinions. It's clear that these posts are taking jabs at them. I've drafted up responses to these people. I just never send them because again, I had to take the step back and realize it's not worth it. So I don't really remember anything if I've ever posted on my story or anything about politics in recent history. Maybe old stuff that I wasn't thinking about before I was really dedicated to the big three. I don't know. But if you find anything and you want to cancel me on it, let me know. Post it up there and we'll have, we'll talk about it. So, yeah, September 11th. That's all I want to say about that. I did an episode a while back talking about a little bit more why it hits home to me, not just because of my time in the military, but when I saw it, when I was a kid in high school and how it affected me and my life after. So I forgot. Go back a couple of Septembers ago and you can find that episode where I talk about it. So there you go. All right, moving on. Get a little bit, lighter on a lighter note here. If you're paying attention to the internet and sports at all, you've probably seen this story, but for those of you who haven't, I thought this was pretty funny. Shannon Sharpe, retired NFL player, played for the Denver Broncos, I believe, maybe some other teams, I don't know. He has a podcast. He's a sports analyst. He's a big personality. They call him Uncle Shannon, Uncle Sharpe. He accidentally went live on Instagram. He said he didn't realize he went live on Instagram and had his phone down. And in the background, you can hear him doing sex with some lady for quite some time. And it was sex because there was verbal confirmation of what was going on in the background. If you just heard moans and groans and shrieks and what have you, you can maybe argue, oh, maybe someone fell down the stairs and got hurt, or maybe it's the video of that grape lady who was stomping grapes and fell out of the stomper. That was one of the all-time OG funny videos on the internet. Grape lady. I remember the first time I saw that video. I was with Family Show Terrence. He showed it to me. I think I've talked about this in the past too. We were at his house in high school, and he showed it to me, and we were laughing so hard. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk. His mom was calling for us to come down and eat dinner or whatever, and we couldn't breathe. We were laughing so hard at the Grape Lady video. So go check that video out too. But yeah, you could have possibly misconstrued the situation and thought it was, oh, maybe this person fell and they got the wind knocked out of them. But then you hear some of the things Shannon Sharpe is saying in the video, of things that this lady will be taking, and how she's going to take it and stuff like that. And you heard the whole thing. And what's even funnier is that on this Instagram live, there was over 6,500 people watching live and commenting it as they're hearing things happen. You don't see anything, but you can hear it all clear as day. And people are responding in the comments and listening in. 6,500 people were listening to this live. So I thought that was funny. And then the next day, first he put out a post saying his Instagram was hacked, but we all know that wasn't true. And I think he was just making light of it. And then the next day on a podcast interview he talked about it, and he's like, yeah, I think he said I was clapping cheeks or something like that. And they were making jokes. It was a show with Chad Ochocinco from the NFL. He played for the Bengals back in the day, back when the Bengals were mostly convicts and they were a dangerous team. I think 8 of the 11 starters on the Bengals that one year all went to prison for something. It was awesome. So he was on that podcast talking about it. And it was funny. So I don't know if it's still on the internet, but you can probably look up Shannon Sharpe Instagram live and see all the stories and the video clips and what have you. It was funny. It was funny. Just having a good time. He's not cheating on anybody. He's not doing anything illegal. He was just having a good time. And he was narrating the whole time as well. And a lot of people tuned in. So there's that. All right. With that, I think that's all I got for current events. We'll get into some stuff in the potpourri junction here. But with that, we'll get into the good stuff. Step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right. Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored, really not proudly sponsored, by the New York Giants recruiting office. Do you have a heartbeat, one working arm, and want to get paid to get ragdolled and bent over a barrel in front of millions of people? Then come try out for the New York Football Giants today. We don't care if you're a shrimpy little Guido from New Jersey or a coked-out trust fund baby Duke alumni. We'll literally take anyone for our team and pay top dollar for you as well. If you're even remotely athletic or skilled at football, don't even bother. We pride ourselves on being the best at being the worst, so we have no room for that success malarkey that those other loser teams in the NFL possess. So if you have nothing to live for and looking for an easy payday, visit www.DannyDimebag.com, and if you use the promo code CrossEyedBoob, you'll get 29% extra on your signing bonus. The Giants game, at the time of this recording, the Giants played one game against the Vikings. Might have been the worst game I've seen the Giants play in years. Maybe when I was younger, when Dave Brown was the quarterback and they were just absolutely dog shit. Maybe then they played worse. I don't remember, though. I was a little too young. I just remember Dan Brown being on the team, Dave Brown or whatever his name was, and they stunk. These guys, this was embarrassing. Up and down every part of the field, every part of the roster, absolutely embarrassing, terrible. Danny Jones stinks. Offensive line stinks. Defensive secondary stinks. Kickers stinks. It was an absolute embarrassment. I actually liked the coach, Mike Dable. He lost a ton of weight too, so he's not a super fatso anymore, risking a heart attack on the sideline. But he has to know that performance was so bad, he's going to be on the chopping block. He could have been Bill Belichick out there, and if his team performed like that, Bill Belichick would know too, like, oh, my days are numbered as a coach. Can't allow that to happen. It was so bad. And the problem is it's not really Daboll's fault. You can only do, again, coaches get too much credit, too much blame too. You can only do so much as a coach. Football a little bit more than like a baseball coach, because you can choose to call the plays and stuff like that. And I think Daboll does call some plays, so he has a little bit of responsibility there if he was calling the plays. But the guys still have to play the game. Okay? The guys still have to play the game. And they played like shit. It was so embarrassing. That's all I'm going to say about it. If they play like that the rest of the season, they could be the worst team in NFL history. They might beat the Lions as the next over team. Just absolutely abysmal. Anyway, the Cage fact. Nic Cage did another interview recently. It just came out in an article, and they were talking about Longlegs and his performance and a whole bunch of other stuff. And by the way, Longlegs did very well in the box office. I think over 100 million in the beginning. So real solid. He was asked how he came up with the character for Longlegs. Like when he read the script, what did he do to come up with the character? And he talked about where he got the idea for the wardrobe and the makeup to help out, the production team of like, this is what I want to look like, this is what I want to wear. And then when it came to his voice and mannerisms, he based the character off of his mother. Her her higher pitched voice and sort of I guess how she was, mannerism wise and things she said and how she said them. He based it off of that. He said, obviously he said his mom wasn't satanic, but she did have a tough life growing up. She dealt with some stuff. So he was almost doing it as like sort of paying homage to her, homage, however you pronounce it. I still to this day, 4 years later on this show, I still don't know the exact way to pronounce that word, but it was just paying respects to his mom. And he said that too. He's like, if I can do, good in this movie, then I'm doing good for my mom. So if you haven't seen Long Legs yet, go see it. And then you'll get a better understanding of the character and all the stuff that he did and how he looked and this and that. I think he got the look. I got to go back and look it up where he got the look from of the wardrobe and stuff. And I'll make that another Cage fact. Maybe I'll do that next week or something. So that's it. That's the Cage fact. Real quick on that one. Talk more about the Giants being the worst team I've ever seen play football ever than I did about Nic Cage, which is crazy because Nic Cage is way more fun to talk about. Anyway, move on over to the Junction. We'll spin the logo up. A little bit of a potpourri episode when it comes to topics. Some LPDS universe updates here in the motherland. As you guys know, I'm back in my parents' basement for the time being. We got some family events coming up that I had to go to, or I will be going to, depending on when you listen to this episode. So I came home for a few weeks to spend more time with the family. So a lot of activity going on. Okay. When I'm here and my parents are working, I got the 2 dogs. I got my parents' dog. I take, watching. He's pretty easy. He's older, pretty easy. But there's always somebody here doing something around the house, whether it's the landscapers. We had the contractor here outside fixing the shed. So we had this contractor here, good guy. He's been doing the contracted work for my parents for a little while now. All the stuff, all the updates for this house, most of them, the one-off jobs like the bathroom remodel and stuff in the attic, stuff like that. He's been the guy for that. He put up a new deck for them, all this stuff. He was here to fix the shed. So we have this ghoulish looking shed. Excuse me. If you don't remember, when I talked about this, the first time my parents moved into this house and I was down in here in this dungeon, the previous owners, the wife was like a self-proclaimed artist, and she absolutely created a monster in this house with her interior decorating, nightmarish stuff. She was a terrible artist, a terrible interior designer and decorator, doesn't know what the hell she was doing. And the house was despicable looking. And one of the things that was despicable looking was this shed. It's like half pink, half brown, just ugly, stupid looking thing. And she loved it, this lady. I don't know how. It's the ugliest pink I've ever seen. But the wood is now deteriorating, so they called in the contractor to come in and replace some of the outside and shore up the shed to protect it in the wintertime and keep the animals out and what have you, make it look nicer. I'm going to repaint it as well. I don't know what color they're repainting it. Hopefully not pink, because that thing is despicable. So he's here. He's working on the shed, and I am 99% sure that when he left the house, he backed into and smashed the mailbox at our house. Now, he parked up, the way our house is set up, there's the driveway at the top of the hill that goes down into the house, obviously. That's where driveways go usually. And then at the top of the front yard is our mailbox that's on the street, not next to the driveway, but we have a gravel parallel parking spot there for guests to park there because there's no shoulder on the road. It's a small road. People can turn around or whatever, and then the contractor will come and park there as well. He parked there, and I think when either him or his partner, his contracting partner, not his love partner, one of them backed out and smashed the mailbox. I don't know who it was, but I do know that they know what they did because they left. I went up to check the mail when I was taking the dog out, and the mailbox is slanted down. It's a plastic mailbox over a metal rod in the ground that keeps it stable. So the mailbox is slanted forward, the metal rod is bent, the plastic is smashed, but the lids of the mailbox, it's two lids, one in the front for the mailman to drop the mail off, and one in the back so my parents don't have to go into the street and get hit by a car when they get the mail. Both of those lids were broken off, but they were put inside the mailbox. Okay? Which means the person smashed the mailbox, stopped the car, realized what they did, put the lids in the mailbox, then drove away without saying anything, thinking like we wouldn't notice that this thing was in absolute shambles. And I can see it as soon as I got outside in the front with the dog and I looked up the hill to go towards the mailbox. I looked and I was like, something's wrong with that mailbox. And it was absolutely smashed and destroyed. And it did not go over well with JPL 3 and Crazy Carol. Now, rightfully so. You don't like when your stuff gets smashed and vandalized. You especially don't like it when the person who did it doesn't admit to it. Now, when interrogated or asked about it, I believe they said, "Oh, I might have hit it. If I did, I'll replace it." So, the end result's going to be fine. It's going to get replaced. No harm, no foul. But it created a little brouhaha here in the dungeon, if you will. Okay, because I had to hear about it. I told my mother, "Hey, this is what happened." She got heated immediately. First response, rage. That's it for her. It's first response. If she hears something negative, first response is kill, ask questions later. Then get mad why the dead person's not asking questions. That's basically how my mom does detective work. So she got enraged. She started firing off a text, and I was like, "Hey, you got to hold up. Don't send anything that you just typed out because God knows what is in it. You don't know. You blacked out right now." So we got to cool off a little bit. Again, that's how we came to find out that they're going to replace it, whatever. And then my old man is hell-bent on, well, if the mailbox is broken, how are we going to get our mail? Because the mail is still the most important thing to come to this house ever, even though 99% of their mail is magazine subscriptions that they didn't sign up for and Val packs and AARP membership requests. That's what they get. Every once in a while, they'll get paper bills because my mom still likes paper bills because she's anti-internets. That's it, though. But according to JPL3, the mail needs to keep coming. It's the most important thing. And I don't blame him either. This is not dogging on him. This is not trying to call him out or anything. His father was a mailman. JPL2 was the premier mailman in all of the U.S. Postal Service. You can almost look it up. Probably not, because I don't trust the USPS website to actually show anything of value these days because they do stink. But when you grow up with mailman of the century, you're gonna take the mail seriously. That's just how it is. So I don't blame him at all. So when his first thought was, I don't care if it's a hurricane outside, I'm going out there to fix that mailbox so we can get our mail the next day. I get it. Can't blame him for it. I get it. I don't agree with it. Probably wait, but I get it. In fact, he didn't even come into the house. He saw the mailbox situation. I gave him the heads up, and he didn't come in the house. He dropped his box of files on the deck outside in the front door and walked right up to the mailbox. And then the next thing he did is he went to the garage to grab some tools and spare wood to try to shore up the mailbox and fix and duct tape and this and that because we had to get the mail. Okay? And then after he did his Libretti job on the repair work, and anybody who knows my family, especially my grandfather JPL2, a Libretti repair job is noticeable. Okay? It does not look like new. It never looks like it was it was broken to begin with. It always looks like some sort of Franken monster of a repair job. That's what you get. So that's what our mailbox looks like. And then the next day, basically every hour on the hour, I was getting text messages to verify when the mailman got there to make sure that they were able to put the mail in the mailbox and it didn't get lost. And I would show you on my phone, but I'm using my phone as a camera, so I can't show you on my phone here in YouTube land. But yeah, all day. Hey, did the mail come? Can you check? Did the guy come to fix the mailbox yet? No? Okay, but you better go check the mail, because if it's not fixed, we don't know if the mail's going to slide out into a different dimension. It could slide out of the mailbox. If the lids are not on there and it's still tilted forward, it could slide out and then disappear forever. Okay, you understand. The mailman might see this broken mailbox and think, I'm still going to try and put this mail in here anyway. They're not going to look at the mailbox and either leave a note saying, hey, your mailbox is broken, we can't deliver your mail, or do what they've done in the past and bring it up to the front door and leave it in between the screen door and the regular front door. They're not going to do that again. They've done it once. There's no precedent to do it again. They're just going to leave it in this broken mailbox, and then it's going to disappear, and we'll never know how much we could have saved at Kroger's or ShopRite on this weekend if we bought 10 cans of SpaghettiOs. We could have got the 11th can for free. Now we can't get that can for free. We can't get the 11th can of SpaghettiOs for free. That green giant can of frozen peas that's going to go in all our leftovers, we can't get it now for free because we don't have the Val pack that came in the mail, because the mail is gone. The mail is in a different dimension because the mailbox is broken. Because the guys didn't come and fix the mailbox who backed into the mailbox to begin with and then didn't tell anybody about it. Okay? How are we supposed to have leftover spaghetti with peas and chicken cutlets if we don't have the peas because we couldn't get the free can of green giant peas because the Val pack wasn't in the mailbox, because the mail slid out and went to a different dimension? It's gone. It didn't slide on the floor, on the ground, on this windless day and stay there like every leaf I'm looking at outside is not moving because there's no wind. It didn't stay there. It disappeared. It's gone. Okay? So you have to make sure that every hour you're checking to see when the mail comes. I know when it comes, about 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. You better get outside and wait for him. I hate to do this to you, Johnny boy, but I'm going to need you to go make sure the mail comes. That's what I did. I made sure the mail came, and I was happy to do it. And again, I'm not dogging on him. I know, I'm sure Crazy Carol's upstairs and, listen to me down yelling here in the dungeon because the walls are thin, the ceilings are thin. So I'm sure she's hearing me and be like, oh, he's talking shit about us again and he hates us. No, I was happy to do it because, like I said, I know how important the mail is when you grew up and your father was the U.S. Postal Service. He was the embodiment of mail. Okay? That guy, after the war, okay, he was in World War II. He did his stuff in the war. Even then, he was still picking up and delivering items. At the time, it was either bullets he was delivering to Nazis and then picking up their gear and then delivering it home as memorabilia. But that's what he does. That's what he did. He was a junk man, family junk man. They owned the junk shop. So he picked up and delivered junk, and then it was mail. Okay? He got out of the war. He did the junk shop for a while, and then he did mailman. He was and he woke up every day, God knows what time in the morning, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, whatever. Okay? He put on his wool uniform, summer, winter, rain or shine, long sleeve, long pants, wool, mailman's cap, and he went and delivered the mail. Okay? And he didn't take a sick day his entire mail career. In fact, on days when guys were calling in sick, JPL2 was picking up their shifts. He was picking up their routes and walking an extra 5, 6, 7 miles that day to make sure that the mail got delivered. Okay? So if that's your father, if your father is the mail, if he's the postal service, if you think what would best describe the U.S. Postal Service, and the best descriptor is your father, yeah, you're going to think the mail is still important. It's still going to be priority number one for you. I agree. I don't fault him for it. And I don't get mad. I don't think it's stupid or lame. And I don't care that he texted me 3, 4 times. The family texted me 3, 4 times to make sure that we got the mail on time. I don't get mad at that at all. What I am mad at, more so than not, besides the guys who smashed the mailbox, is I'm mad at the Postal Service for becoming such a poorly run, unreliable, unimportant mess. Because they disrespected my grandfather, they disrespected the history of the mail, and they're disrespecting all the people who still think the mail is important. It's sad to see someone think the mail is that important when it's not anymore, because they're holding on to the past. It's tough. It's tough to see that. And I know from experience, because I hold on to the past with a lot of stuff that's different now. So I get it. So that's what we got going on here in the family compound, the LPDS road compound, the Libretti Nut House. That's what we got going on this week, the past couple weeks. A lot of chaos. We got the bear back. The bear that almost attacked my father on Easter all those years ago. He's back roaming around. And guess what? Guess who was asked to go and scare the bear away? This guy. Now, I was a little less happy to get that request. I'd rather sit outside and get the mail than go and bang pots and pans and try to scare an apex predator out of my yard who looks at me and it's like in those Tex Avery cartoons. They look at me and all of a sudden I turn into a steak and then they start drooling and their eyes are getting big and their mouths water and that's all they see is steak. And I have a pot and a pan in my hand, so they're like, this guy's ready to get cooked and eaten. I'm not going out there and doing that. But the bear's back. I don't know what he's doing. He doesn't have food around here. Maybe he came back because he knew at one point there was food here. So he's coming. It's just survival instinct to go back to what you know, just to survive and try to get food. So hopefully he doesn't last here too long. But there was another bear sighting recently, and as you know, historically, Ranger JPL3 is acutely aware of the situation and goes full throttle in eradicating the bears from the hot zone, the safe zone, the compound. And he doesn't care if he has to sacrifice his son to do so. So that's what we got going on here. What else have we got going on here? A lot of other stuff. I can't get into all of it this go around, so maybe next week I'll add some more stuff. But it has been a busy week. We also are in this sort of, I don't know what to call it. Maybe it's like a sports witching hour season kind of thing, because right now you have the end of baseball. So important baseball is now. Okay. So the casual fans are going to start to up their numbers and viewership on baseball because it's getting towards playoff time. Important baseball is being played now. Okay. I, on the other hand, think every game is important. Obviously, we just talked about it earlier, but we have that important baseball's coming up. And then the start of the football season, college and NFL. Okay. So you have college all day Saturday. You have NFL all day Sunday. You got NFL on Monday. You got NFL on Thursday. You got college on Wednesday. It's all games all the time. Okay. And if you're like sports like me, it's tough to navigate. Okay. Last night, what's today? At the time of this recording, Thursday Night Football was on the night before. Okay. So I'm recording on a Friday. Thursday Night Football was on. We had the football game on Amazon Prime, and then we had a switch to the Yankee game on Fox, local news, local Fox channel. So good luck figuring that out. We already know that our family likes to flip channel surf. So if there's one commercial, or if a batter calls timeout, we're flipping to another channel to get instant entertainment all the time on the TV. That's just how it is with my family. Now try to do that, flipping over to Amazon Prime on a smart TV with people who don't like the internets. So we were bouncing around trying to watch some of the football game, trying to watch the Yankees. They needed this win. Trying to watch Raymond reruns. Blue Bloods was on as well. It was absolute chaos. This is what the sports season, like this is what the witching hour season does to you in sports. Okay. A couple of days ago, I had a baseball game on one TV. I had about 3 football games on my computer going. Another TV in the other room, we had games going. Like it's chaos. And that is like sort of one of the cons of being so into these particular sports, is that at this time of the year, up until November, it's tough to follow. You lose sleep over it. You don't know what games you're watching. You don't know who's playing who, what time they're playing. You have to have all these spreadsheets and red yarn charts to figure out who's playing who and where, or what time, on what channels. And then if you're betting, it's even crazier, because what parlay do you have? What's the money line here? Who's doing the anytime touchdown scores? It is absolute chaos. But I live for that stuff. You know me in chaos. Okay? It's the closest thing I can get to any sort of combat and war is this right now, is this chaos. If I'm in chaos, I am in my element. I'm thriving. I'm happy. Things are going well. So that's the point we are at. Plus, I'm here at the Libretti Nut House. There's already chaos regularly here that goes on, for better or worse. Plus this sports witching hour season. Plus I'm doing, spearhead stuff. I'm trying to get things ready for the podcast to start there. Product development, prospecting and getting clients. All this stuff is going on. I have another opportunity coming up real quick, actually. I'm not going to mention everything about it, but I teased it out a little bit previously that I might have an opportunity. I didn't want to jinx it. Well, it's looking like I got this opportunity. I don't want to bring it out and talk about it too specifically right now, because I have one training session I need to do, and that'll really shore things up. And then I'll go public with this other opportunity I have that's going to help me personally, financially, and will help Spearhead too, I believe, in the long run as well. So all that stuff's going on. The chaos on top of chaos on top of chaos. It's a perfect storm of chaos right now, and I can't tell you how happy I am about it. I am really in my element. In the moment, if you're talking to me day to day, it's tough. I'm all over the place. I can't talk right now. I can't hang out. I can't do this. I got to do this. But deep inside, I know this is where I belong. Because when I'm sitting there doing nothing, and it's an easy, relaxing day, and there's nothing going on, it's not good, folks. Okay, that's when the ideas start spinning in my head on what I'm going to do to keep busy and to get back into the chaos, to get back into the combat mindset. And most of the time, those ideas are not great. Some good ideas have come from it. Spearhead, I think, is a great idea. I know it's a great idea. Running marathons, not such a great idea. What else we got? I can't think. Going back to school again. I get my master's on weekends. Not a great idea. So I need the chaos. If my brain is busy, I'm happy. And that's what we got here. So we are going to take a little time. I took some time to go to the shore and relax a little bit. And that was good because we had a plan. So we can stick to a plan and not be sitting there twiddling our thumbs, cooking up bad ideas. We had good ideas. This coming weekend, by the time this episode posts, it'll already be over. But we have a retirement dinner for JPL3. And I'm going to end I'm going to end the episode with this. My father will be retiring at the end of this month, September. Please don't bother him with text messages or anything like that. He likes to keep things low key, so no emails or texts. If you want, please just send it to me. If you want to wish him well or congratulate him or whatever, send it to me and I'll let him know. But he can't handle all the technological correspondence at once like that. So if you're hearing this and you want to send anything to him about retiring at the end of September, hit me up about it, which is fine, which will be fine. But we're having a dinner for him, a little early dinner because I am home. But this is just, I want to give like a shout out to my old man. He's going to be working part-time with a friend who has a law firm, a private law practice. He's going to be doing some part-time, mostly work from home type of stuff once a month's over to just make a couple extra bucks. And because he likes doing the work, he likes being a lawyer. But his particular job has been miserable. I'm not going to get into the specifics on that because that's his story to tell. But my father has been working 10, 12, 14-hour days, fluctuating, my entire existence. Okay. He started his law firm back before I was born. When I was a kid, he had that for a number of years, and he lived at that office. He always got home when it was dark. He left in the morning. Sometimes we saw him if we were going to school or whatever, or if we had school, something when I was really young. Obviously, I wasn't going to school. 10, 12, 14-hour days easily. Everything was at least a 10-hour day. Weekends, we would go into his office and help him out. My grandparents would come. His parents would do the cleaning and vacuuming. My grandparents were the janitors. We would help move files around to keep things organized. We would go get food, bring food and eat. And that's how we spent time with the family because he was getting this up and running. He was getting this going. He was living there, basically. And he did that for years. And then he got rid of that and he started working for another corporate law firm. And it was run by corrupt assholes. So they had him working like a dog for more years. And he worked. And he worked because he needed to put food on the table. Him and my mom worked. Their work ethic is unrivaled. They got it from my grandparents, my two grandfathers. That's what they lived for. I just told you about my grandfather, JPL2. That's what he lived for. He woke up at 4 a.m. and he worked all day. And then when he got home, he did hobby work, collecting junk. That's what he did. That's what they do. They worked. And we were not wealthy. When I was very young, we were drinking powdered milk and Parmalat milk and scrounging for meals. And they were working their asses off to put the roof over our heads and the food on our tables and to make sure that we didn't know anything different, that we didn't have to struggle. We didn't know anything else but we were going to get food, water, toilet, shelter, no problem. And not only did my dad work day in and day out and weekends, late nights, all the time. Even while he was home, he was taking work calls and helping out with work and helping people out. He coached all of our sports. He coached my sister's basketball team. He coached her softball team. He took a course to become a certified soccer coach in New Jersey to coach my soccer team. He knew nothing about soccer. He wore football cleats out there to coach us. He coached my baseball teams in Little League. He coached my rec league basketball for a while until I started playing CYO league. And even then, he would come in to substitute as an assistant coach when the head coaches weren't there. He came to my sports. He went to my sister's plays. He went to my brother's sports and plays and trumpet performances and forensics tournaments. And he worked at my sister's school so that she can get help on her tuition. And he was part of father's club, and he worked the barbecues, and we helped work the barbecues and all the events that they had at her school. And he still was working 10-hour plus days, day in and day out, every day. And he's finally getting to retire. And I just think there's something to be said about a guy who gets a lot of shit talk from us, from the people at work. He takes a lot of shit. He's always taking a lot of shit. But he just kept going out there and sacrificing his time and his luxury and delaying his gratification to make sure that we had a roof over our head, that we had food at our table, we can go to the schools we wanted to, and we didn't have to live that life that he had to live because of his struggles. Oh, by the way, for years our grandparents lived with us because they were sick, and my parents were taking care of them while they were working. And oh, by the way, a lot of the work he did on the side was pro bono. It was just to help other people. He was just helping people out, helping make other people's lives better. And it's just nice to see that 70 something years old, when when he should have been retired at 50 the way he worked, at 70 plus years old, he gets to finally take a break, sit on his recliner, watch his John Wayne movies, watch World War II in living color, whatever it's called, World War II in color, not in living color. And there's just something to be said about that work ethic. You don't you don't see that anymore. You don't see that level of dedication to anything anymore, really. You see it sometimes in sports with the people who are obsessed and they become the best of the best. And there's all those stories out there, but you certainly don't see people sacrificing every extra second of their luxury time, of their own personal time to work for others and still be present as a husband and a father. You just don't see it anymore. And I wish I could give his boss a piece of my mind for the way that he was treated for the past several years. I would lay into that person because he gave his time there, driving an hour and a half to and from work, sometimes 2+ hours with traffic the past several years to go work for a completely disrespectful organization who treated their employees like trash, and he still worked day in and day out because he knew I have to provide for my family. I have to be there for my family, and if they're not physically here, I have to be there by working to make money to be there for them. So, shout out to JPL3. Congratulations on the retirement. I hope you find a hobby so that you're not driving everybody crazy now with all this extra time you're going to have. So All right. I was going to do hotline calls. I heard the calls ahead of time. This is not the time for those particular hotline calls. I'll do them next week. Sorry to the people who called in. I appreciate your jokes and your bits. We'll get to them next week. That's all I got today, folks. Before we go, the big three, very quickly, the three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, more genuine human being, and be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you and throughout the land. Number one, exercise every day. Do something to improve your physical, mental, or emotional health and fitness. Whether it's a workout, going for a walk, a physical exercise, reading a book, doing some sort of mental workout, or some emotional workout, praying, meditation, breath work, what have you. Number two, the hardest one to do, don't be a shitty person, be a kind person. When the opportunity arises to be shitty and negative to somebody or just in general, take the LPDS step back. Think about the consequences of your actions and being negative, even if you think somebody deserves it or you think you're in the right or whatever. Take that LPDS step back, omit yourself from the situation so that you can minimize the negativity and the shit going on in the world, and you can allow yourself the mental capacity to go focus on more positive and productive things in your life. It's very hard to do, though. I get it. I told you, I draft a lot of responses on social media to really stick it to people. I got to take the step back. So, number three, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives, because you never know when it's going to be gone. And too often people don't realize the good that they had until it's gone. And then it's too late. So take time out of your day, each and every day, to think about those good things in your lives. Think about what your life would be like without those good things or people or what have you. And that'll put you in that state of gratitude, and you'll be able to appreciate things more instead of take things for granted. You do all those three things, and I promise you, each and every day you do those three things, I promise you, you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, more genuine human being. You'll be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends and enemies. Hit the hotline 202-670-1114. I'll get to those calls at a different episode. I apologize again. It was not the right time for those calls. 202-670-1114. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.